Hey, what's up guys, it's Matt, welcome back. Today we are talking about Spider-Man Far From Home.
3, 2, 1.
Just going to warn you now, there will be some potential spoilers, so if you don't want the film spoiling for you at all, then go away, watch it, then come back and watch the video. Also, a heads up, there's going to be some annoying sounds in the background. Me and Bernadette have recently just bought kittens, and they've been locked up all day, so I'm kind of letting them run around and they're causing mayhem. So, sorry about that. So with this movie taking place after Endgame, obviously there's kind of a lot riding on it, because it's the first movie to show us what the world is like post-Endgame. And it does a pretty good job of kind of just brushing over it, kind of like how Avengers Endgame did with this, showing us this is the world post-snap. It shows us just enough, but the rest is kind of for us to just fill in with our imaginations, because you could spend months focusing on all the tiny details. The film does it in quite a humorous way. It just quickly explains, look, everyone was brought back, we're referring to it as a blip, let's just move on with the story. And the story is quite a simple one. Peter Parker just wants to go away on his summer vacation with his friends, where he's going to try and get it on with MJ, but Nick Fury has other plans, because there's all these elemental things from another dimension that have come to attack the Earth, and Spider-Man has to team up with Mysterio to save the day. Here's your first spoiler warning. Mysterio, obviously the bad guy. I mean, come on, if you didn't know that, then like that's just on you. That's quite common knowledge that Mysterio is a Spider-Man bad guy. Say hello, Thor. Oh wow, he did! That was amazing! For me personally, the film was a bit of a drag for the first half of it. At just over 2 hours, kind of all the build-up to Mysterio actually revealing himself as a bad guy, it wasn't that it dragged on, it was just a bit dull in comparison to the latter half of the movie. From when Mysterio though comes out and is kind of revealed as the villain, the film really picks up the pace there. Jake Gyllenhaal absolutely nails it as Mysterio. Especially during his kind of like coming out scene. At first, when I watched it, I was like, this is just dragging. This is just a guy just shouting exposition on the screen. Like, why is this going on and on and on? And then a switch just kind of went off in my head, and I remembered, wait, hang on a minute, like, yeah, that's Mysterio. He's like this visual effects mastermind artist, but, you know, he's a showman. And that was his moment. He was like, our evil plan has come to fruition, blah, 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 blah. So, like, looking back on it now, although it annoyed me at the time, it actually fit in perfectly well with the character. And Gyllenhaal absolutely kills it in this movie. I wouldn't go as far to say that he was as good as or better than Michael Keaton as the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, but he was a very good, memorable, good villain, and I think he's definitely sort of one of the better MCU villains. This is Loki. Loki, say hi. Or not. 1 out of 2 wasn't bad. Tom Holland, of course, great once again as Spider-Man. They tried to give him a bit more sort of emotional things to do here, obviously with him dealing with Tony Stark's death. I thought he dealt with those scenes quite well. My major issue there is that the film early on kind of sets up like it's going to be a really traumatic major thing for him to deal with this, but then I feel like it didn't delve as deep and dark emotionally as it could have done, and as much as it kind of built up that it was going to. Obviously, it's a Spider-Man movie, they want to try and keep it lighthearted, I was perfectly okay with that, but I felt like they set it up like him dealing with, you know, being in the shadow of Tony Stark and having to rise up was going to be more of a thing than it kind of actually was. Samuel Jackson returns obviously as Nick Fury, along with Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill. Zendaya once again returns as Mary Jane. We get to see a lot more of her this time than we did in Homecoming, and I like it. It's a very refreshing, different take on the character of Mary Jane, and the more of you get in this movie, she is kind of wonderful, and I do believe kind of the chemistry between her and Tom Holland. The special effects in the movie are really, really well done. There is an absolutely incredible sequence when Spider-Man actually has his first fight with Mysterio, and obviously Mysterio is doing all of his like special effects, like mindfuck things. Like absolutely brilliant. One of the best things I've ever seen on screen in a comic book movie, in all honesty. It actually felt like it had been ripped straight out of the comics, so completely commend the filmmakers for that. That being said though, there is one scene where the special effects are just god-awful, and all I will say is it involves a drone and a bus, and just for about 10 seconds on screen, it's just like, what? How did that make it into the movie? It's just so god awful. I think as well, while we're kind of on something that's so god awful, there are a couple of shots in the movie where I don't know what the cinematographers were thinking, but they just seem so basic and just kind of unnecessary. There were one or two points in there where it was kind of very much like, oh, I'm not sure the audience will get that. Let's handhold. For an example, is pointing out that a bus driver is a bad guy. We all know, like, they make a over-the-top point of like, no, the bus driver has to make a phone call, like, I have them. And it's just like, we're not idiots. We know he's one of the bad guys. There's one or two instances like that throughout the film where I think it's just kind of like, have a bit more faith in your audience. Like, I feel like you've tried to dumb it down a little too much there. Moving on though, the whole last half of the film is excellently paced. The final battle was, in my opinion, absolutely incredible. You know, rather than it kind of being just, you know, one superhero punching another superhero, punching another, you know, one superhero punching a supervillain, punching a superhero, punching a supervillain kind of thing. Obviously, it was Spider-Man pretty much having to use all of his abilities against thousands of freaking drones to get to the one guy who's controlling the drones. And just kind of the whole sequence, just seeing him sort of, you know, swing around and everything like that was absolutely incredible. These cats. A lot of people have been going on that this movie is kind of changing the face of the MCU forever. Yeah, it's not so much true with the movie, that's more true of the post-credit scenes rather than the movie itself. Two post-credit scenes, a mid-credit scene and a credit scene at the very, very end. Do stick around for both of them, because yeah, the final credit scene is kind of obviously opening the doors for where the MCU is going to go next in a very, very big way. I'm quite interested to see where they are going to take everything. In terms of kind of the end of the movie, it made me, like, I just had a proper massive nerd grin on my face. It's, you know, I kind of got the big Spider-Man sort of moments which I've been wanting with Tom Holland since, you know, he took on the role. And obviously they've tried to slowly, you know, we've had Spider-Man movies before with the Raimi trilogy and then the two web movies as well, that kind of somewhat did the same thing. So obviously Marvel with the MCU Spidey, they've been trying to do something a bit different. But the ending of this movie kind of put Spider-Man where he belongs. There's definitely some shots in there which are ripped straight, almost straight from like various Spider-Man comic covers. And it just made me so incredibly happy. And fingers crossed for, you know, a third Spider-Man MCU movie, kind of bringing it more back to basics. The film does a really nice job of kind of like harking back to some earlier MCU movies as well, sort of, you know, drawing comparisons between like Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Tony Stark as Iron Man. Some people don't like the whole like Spider-Man, you know, being the shadow of Iron Man. They feel like he should be completely his own independent character. This is the Spider-Man we have in the MCU. So, you know, deal with it, be happy with it, appreciate it. You know, I kind of liked it. Some of them were a bit like in your face kind of thing, you know, with when he's sort of designing a costume and AC/DC, Led Zeppelin comes on. But overall, I really enjoyed them. You know, I was kind of like, it was a bit cheese. Did you really have to go down that route? But like, they did. You know, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But it's like, you didn't. I think it's going to divide fans. I think a lot of people are going to love that kind of stuff and a lot of people are going to hate that kind of stuff. But as I said, it's like, this is the MCU Spider-Man. You know, his origin is his origin. Tony Stark took him under his wing, so you kind of have to go with it for now. So to give the movie a rating, as I say, the earlier half of the movie, it didn't so much drag on. It's just not as good as the second half of the movie, but overall, it didn't ruin the experience for me. So I am going to give Spider-Man Far From Home a 8 out of 10. Well guys, that's all for this video. Have you seen Spider-Man Far From Home yet? Do let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. Do subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future. And until next time, take care.